networking. Networking is the basic thing. You need to have a lot of contacts. You need to have connects to get a lot of things done for knowledge, to gain information. And as a student, the basic area where you can network it would be through seminars and conferences and through workshops. And apart from that, a higher version of networking would be, attending internship programs in some companies which they offer, and skill development or skill enhancement programs, and through industrial visits. So industrial visits in the sense when we have in the biotech side, you can go and visit industries, and most of the industries are happy to take in students to explain to them what is happening. And being on the other side as an entrepreneur now, I would say that we are also happy to have students with us, fresh minds with new ideas joining us or working with us for some times. We learn a lot from them. We learn a lot from the students. So it is not just about connecting people, but you need to connect to the right people. You need to understand what path you're going to take, and you maybe even when you start attending seminars and conferences and meet new people over there, you might get ideas of what you can do or how you can get things done. And also these conferences and seminars, they keep you updated with the technology, the current technology. What you learn in the textbook is different, and what happens in real life is actually different. So when you actually attend these conferences, workshops, seminars, you know what is happening. And we in GeneAura also provide programs for internships as well as project trainings, so that we have a one-to-one interaction with our students. Students have gained a lot of knowledge from us as in the feedback. So how my journey as an entrepreneur started was that first we had to identify a problem. So during the course of my research, my area of interest was women reproductive health, and since I had also been working on IVF clinic, my area of research was focused on women reproductive health, even from the undergraduate level itself. We that and I could identify polycystic ovary syndrome as one of the area. We all know polycystic ovarian syndrome is having a high prevalence rate. It was 1 in 10 women having polycystic ovarian syndrome maybe 5 years ago, but now it is 1 in 5 women. So the rate is increasing, and the major reason was that there is no proper diagnosis or there is no proper pathology behind it. So I wanted to find out a solution for that, and I thought genetics would help me in that. So we as a team, we worked to find out if the genetics could help us identify what is the pathology behind PCOS. So identifying the pathology is the first step when you consider a disease, to first diagnose it properly and then give appropriate treatment and to develop drugs for it. So this basic pathology was not identified in PCOS. So that is how my research was focused on. And once you know the pathology, the first step would be appropriately diagnosing it. Obviously, treating it and medications are not our scope; they are the clinician's scope. But clinicians cannot work without the results of our research. So my first problem identification was I need to identify or categorize the PCOS people correctly. So that was a problem, and the kind of solution which we obtained was we could achieve it through genetic engineering or through genetics, and that's when an innovation or an idea came into play. Now, this idea is the starting point for a company. And when you have this idea, like I said initially, it is not nice when you keep your research to yourself. It has to come. You have to commercialize it. You have to take it to the market. Only then it will reach the people. You've been trying to identify the pathology behind PCOS, trying to identify methods of its diagnosis, but you don't let the people who actually require it, use it. If they cannot make use of whatever you have found out, then that research is a waste. So taking it to the market, making it reach the people who might actually require it, was the place where my research got converted into an entrepreneur journey or a commercialization. And for that, the first step was my market analysis. I need to understand what my customers require. So to understand that is when I identified that people are not having proper diagnosis. It is not just the treatment method. The prevalence rate did not increase because of a lack of a treatment, but there was a lack in diagnosis itself. It was very confusing. So that was the first step. We thought we would introduce genetic panels or identify it using genes, like we do have sometimes in complex cancers. We would be able to identify it through genes. So we thought we could do this also through genes. So that is the understanding my customer, the end user who is going to use my product, understanding their requirements and needs and what is required for them. That comes the first step. And when I have that understanding, I would be able to forecast maybe in another 5 years, how is this going to come? Is the PCOS prevalence going to increase? It is going to become more common. Or is something else going to come into play? So understanding that this PCO is going to stay for some time, it requires some help from the researchers side. So that with that forecasting, for forecasting you require a lot of data. Data is taken from statistics, researchers around the world, researchers within the country, and all these statistics put together would help you evaluate your product. If the product is going to stay for a long time, will it meet the requirements which is forecasted? So all this product evaluation is the second step. Once you understand the customer requirements, and then you design a product, and then you have to evaluate your product. Only after evaluating your product, you can make a decision, and then you can bring it to the market. So before making a decision, there's another step that you have to actually do, that is competitor analysis. Obviously, you might not be the sole person who's working on that one problem. The world is very competitive. There are many number of people who are working. When I say I did a research on PCOS, it is not only me. In India itself, I know there are 3 more groups who are researching on PCOS apart from me. So it is very competitive, and you need to understand. You need to keep following what your competitor is also doing. It has to be a healthy competition. Maybe even you can even form groups and discuss something. They might sort out some other issues, and we might sort out some other issues. So with all this information, after assessing, planning, implementation, and monitoring and evaluation, you make a decision on how to launch or create your product and launch it into the market. And when that part comes, we found a beautiful model to actually get it done. So that we call it usually the 6W model. You can Google it. You can find that model. So there, they have several questions. When we are able to answer those questions, we know how to place our product and how to promote it. How would the end users be doing it? I mean, needing it, and how many people would have to play in between this. So we need to find out who are our customers exactly. In my case, end users might not be my customers, but the clinicians who's prescribing it or using it for the diagnosis of the PCOS patients will be my customers. So we need to be very really careful. I mean, we need to have a clear understanding of who our customers are. So now I will have to reevaluate my product. I do not need to understand the PCOS patient's requirements, but I need to understand the clinicians who's going to use my product. I need to understand their requirements. So why not? Why not is the place where when somebody don't wants to use our product, what is lacking in us? We need to understand our lacunae and upgrade ourselves, and why. The other way around also, why would they prefer a product if I can make it even more better? So that is another why. What is it that they are actually going to pay for? You need to keep those criteria. You need to be clear of that. You have to balance your affordability and affordability of the patients. I cannot sell something to a low income group. I cannot sell something very costly to a low income group. So if I have to cater their requirements, how can I alter my products? All these ideas and brainstorming sessions need to happen. Where in the sense where would I sell this product, or where is the requirement for the products? That is where we see where and when is the forecast. Is it required immediately, or is it required in the long term? So when you are able to answer all this, you would be able to devise a plan on creating a product and selling it to the market. And your target audience, like I said, maybe I might still be confused on if PCOS patients are my customers, or the clinicians my customers. So you can when I consider clinicians as my customers, it's a B2B model because the clinicians are also running a business over there by running a hospital or a clinic. So it's a B2 business to business model, and then business to consumer models. Yes, when somebody wants to say that I have some few members in my family who have PCOS, but am I at a risk of PCOS? When they want to screen for such risk, then the customers become a direct the patients become a direct customer. So we call that as B2 consumer products. So my company works in the third category, B2B as well as B2C. Uh, can I have all the others muted, please? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We'll look into it, ma'am.
And now I have an idea of how my product is going to be working in the market. Now I have a clear idea of my product, but I need to take it to the market. Our world has changed. We have everything. We know everything. We Google a lot. We see a lot. We understand a lot. So the customers are not very easy to handle, and branding becomes very important over there. As a student, when you're buying a shoes, obviously, as you would know that you want to buy a branded shoes, you don't want to buy a normal shoes. Even Bata, even that is okay, but it's a brand. So without that recognition, your product is not going to be sold in the market. So branding is very, very important, and that gives a quality or gives a high edge to your product, whatever it is. So the first step in a branding would be to put a beautiful name and create a logo for it, and then marketing, advertisements, identity, then value, strategy, design, and all this, and trust. So branding actually equals to trust. When we know this brand, you say, no, I trust this brand, I can use it without any second thoughts. So that's where your branding lies. It's very important. For doing all this, one technical person cannot sit and do this. So for logo and all, you take professional help. There are people who do create logos, they create soft copies, they create the documents whichever is required for you guys. So marketing, you require a marketing team. For advertising and marketing, it's a different set of people who might the money, the strategic planning, the finance involved in everything. You require a different team for that. So you cannot work alone. Once you have a product and you've decided on an entrepreneur journey, you cannot work alone. You require a team. Team is not just a set of your friends or your set of classmates, because you have the same skill sets, but you need a team who are having different skill sets from different departments and different background. Only then you will have a lot of inputs for brainstorming sessions to improvise your product, to upgrade your method of marketing and your services. So team, you need to have, but you all need to have a fixed goal. You can train each other in your team. You can teach the other members in your team about your technology. They can teach you about finance. So building a team which is very strong is important. And apart from that, you would have different skill sets in team. They're the first line of support. When you see a failure, your team knows how much of hard work has been put into it. So they are your first system of support. And team, when they come from different backgrounds, they bring in different people. So collaborations are expanded over there. And yes, when you have people thinking from different angles, your solutions are extremely brainstormed, and that brainstorming sessions are very important to keep yourself upgraded and give out new products. And always it's your team who keeps motivating you to achieve more. So build a very strong team, and with the help of this team, you have to make a business plan. So that's the next step. Once you have a team and you have a product and you have at least something background which is ready. So now you need to make a business plans. And in the business plan, your first step would be to set in your goals, set in short term goals, set in long term goals, and decide upon how your operations are going to happen. Set in a timeline. You just set in goals and leaving it is not going to work. You need to actually set in a timeline to achieve those goals, but very likely timelines, not very unacceptable timelines. The timelines and your goals have to be achievable. When they're not achievable, you lose hope. It's very important. And finance is very important. When you set goals and your operations and you're working towards them, without finance you cannot do anything in that. Okay. and then your strategic planning. And as said, always you should follow your competitor, know what they are also doing, what is being launched in the market, what kind of new competitions are coming up in the market. All this need to be updated. And when you have done all this, um, the first step, where when you say I am from this company, somebody would do, or we ourselves would do, is Google them. So the online presence is very, very important. So for Googling, the first thing which lands up when you have a website, the impression on your company becomes a little more trustworthy. So that gives you a strong branding, and just an affordable marketing. When you have to spend once to build the website, and then you can just keep upgrading it. So having a good website is very, very important. It gives you high credibility, and also maybe in a meeting you will not be able to discuss everything with the person whom you're meeting. So when once you leave, they might Google you, and they would get more information, or it would also help you in expanding your opportunities. So building a good business site is very, very important. And now, when we have all this, we need to get a company registered. There are different types of companies. I think you can approach your incubation center. They would give you the types of companies available, how to get them registered, what and all are required for it, and all such information. So a company cannot run without being registered anywhere. You have to get yourself registered as a company, as well as in the necessary laws, wherever me being from a clinical side, we have some other laws also to be registered under that. So but all this, like I said, you cannot do it alone. But when the idea is getting created, you are alone. So when you have that idea, please approach a incubation center. We have a very beautiful incubation center inside the VMRF-AVIT Institute, that is the GIEC, and they have a Dr. Adil over there is a CEO, and he has a very beautiful team who would guide you in every step. All these steps which I've been telling so far, they would guide you with everything properly, and they're really good in getting finances and connects, networking. They have a huge network. They can help you networking. So first, when you have an idea, you require a place or an infrastructure to start or to develop that idea. So that infrastructure is provided by them, and all the business services, all these slides which I've showed you now, like building the team, getting your registrations done, your planning your finances, your strategic planning, all this, business services, they have a team to take care of it. Apart from that, they also do financing and access to finance. Without the finance, you cannot run a company. And people connectivity and networking, yes, that's one to go places. They keep conducting workshops, seminars, conferences constantly. They just keep connecting you to different people around the globe. So you actually have access to what is happening around you, and education and access to knowledge. So we have partnered up with GIEC to impart education to give skill training to upcoming students or freshers, so that they are industry ready. So like me, they have also tied up with other companies for skill upgradation to the students of VMRF. And brand building, they would help you with that management of your company and all the secretarial services required. So in case you have an idea, you just have an idea and you want to develop a company, please approach incubation centers. We do have some more incubation centers in Chennai and Tamil Nadu also. So you can approach either of them. But take help. Help is available. Taking help is very important when you are an entrepreneur. Especially women entrepreneurs are very few. That's because they do not get the required help, as it is. But there are a lot of centers which do support women entrepreneurship, and they give a little more extra help also to them. Our government itself, facilitates women entrepreneurs. So please do make use of the help available and the funds available from the government sector as well as the private sectors. So when I talk about funds, which is very important, we have 4 to 5 kind of people who funds in entrepreneurs or new startups. So the first or the major share comes from somebody called as angel investors and major donors. So angel investors are present around the globe, and you can connect to them through incubation centers. So they actually pull in a lot of angel investors for you. They would make you, present your ideas and get them. They call it pitch. So you pitch your ideas and you try to raise funds for your company. And early stage VC firms, again, you have it's a similar place where again incubation centers are the to-go people to connect to the early stage VC firms and foundations. You're lucky that VMRF itself are funding some really good startups. So foundations like them, already established big people in the city, they also fund some startups. You have to identify them. But being a student or an alumni of, if in case you are an alumni of VMRF, obviously you can take help from your university itself. And accelerators are people who have a few investors with them, and they connect the startups and the investors. And how do we connect to an accelerator is again through an incubation center. And there are hybrid models which has all these setups. So our GIEC is one such hybrid model which would help you pull in funds from all of these four kind of funders. Mm. And why are startups important? The startups are small companies only, but they play a big role in the economic process. That's because since they're a startup, they come with more innovative ideas. We commonly see these Make in India and all those things. So startups does not require an invention. We have a lot of inventions in the world, but we are no more doing a lot of inventions. But you need some. I mean, you don't need an discovery, but you just have to innovate or improvise what is available. And then put it as Make in India, and you are extremely supported when you are in India. And India is such a growing country. We have such a beautiful economy that they are empowering all these startups to bring in new ideas, to make things inside India, to give the services within India for the Indian people. So when you like I keep saying, me coming from a genetic background, usually the genetic data available are not from the Indians. The databases are created using genetic data of the American and the European people. But when we have to clinically report this data, it is not going to match my patients. It's a headache. So now when I say I'm creating something for the Indians and I'm doing it with a job, yes, it is more welcome. It is actually, even the clinicians are more appreciative of it, that it reduces their job. They don't have, the confusions are a little less. So we're able to give a direct report to the patient. We can cross check and then give it to them. So with that innovation, I had started a company. There is GeneAura, where we see that each gene is personified. It has an aura. So each person has its own characteristics, and we look at the Indian genomics. So Indian ethnic population, we are different. Indians are different from the rest of the world. See, similarly, our genes are also different from the rest of the world. So that's how we try to cater the needs of the Indian population and their medical conditions. So a little bit about us. We are GeneAura Private Limited. We are headquartered at Chennai, but we have our services expanded throughout Tamil Nadu and Kerala. And we are a genetic diagnosis and a genetic counseling company. And we take pride in providing end-to-end genomic services to clinicians as well as to researchers. Yes, researchers, because genetics is growing rapidly. Every day we have one or the other new technology coming in, new machines being introduced, and these new technologies has to be first tested and tried by a researcher before it can be given to a clinical practice. For a researcher to try and test this, they need to get themselves upgraded. So we keep ourselves, getting up skill developed regularly, and I get it done from outside India, and I take pride in bringing the knowledge back to India and giving it to our students, who will be our future persons in this field. So we in GeneAura, we deal with chromosomes, DNA, proteins, the expression of the proteins, as well as the epigenetic regulations. And we envision people with having easy access to accurate genomic information, which is tailor-made to meet their health requirements, through precision data analysis at a very cost-efficient model. Yes, when we are actually talking about Indian patients, our affordability is also a very important thing. Genetic tests are very costly. We're trying to make them more, specific to their specifically tailor-made to suit a patient, and also trying to reduce the cost. So making this cost efficient is where our major R&D. We have an R&D department in GeneAura. Within GeneAura, a major of our works is aimed at making the gene tests cost efficient. And I have an excellent team. Like I said, team is my strength. So I have three PhD holders apart from me, and I have a nutrition expert, a bioinformatician expert. I have, in fact, two bioinformatician experts, and I have three genetic engineering graduates, two or three genetic counselors, and they're all certified, and one person to take care of the administration. So without the information or the input from these team members, I will not be able to function as a company. I would just be doing self-employment and not a company. And apart from this, building a strong advisory board is important. Our services are mostly towards the clinical side as well as research side. So a strong advisory board was essential for us. I have a lot of emeritus. Around 10 members are there in the advisory board. They're all really experienced people, more than 60 years. They aged is more than 60 years. And they are emeritus professors and doctors who give advice on the other areas. But like I said, upgradation keeps happening, and we need to have international skill developments also in. So I have three major people who are also on the advisory board who are just a click away from me. I can get advice from them on anything I require. So our major sectors are covered here. The first, ma'am, Sonia ma'am, is a licensed certified genetic counselor. She's been practicing in the US and the Canada region for the past 25 years. So when I have some queries on genetic counseling, she gives me a first-hand advice on how it is done or handled differently in the US. It gives a different perspective to it. And Dr. Ratna Kumar is the director of the sequencing unit in the Cincinnati's hospital. So any technological troubleshooting issues, I can actually trust on him and call him. And another the person is Dr. Venkatesh Chellappa, who's the senior bioinformatician in the Karolinska Institute, Sweden. The downstream process after whatever the reporting testing has been done, when I have issues in the reporting of a clinical sample, then he would always be handy for me. So I do have a strong team who's, I'm backed up by a strong team to run my business. And I showed you who I am as a student, but who I am as an entrepreneur currently is that I'm a founder, yes, proudly, and I work as you cannot call it as work, but I am a genetic counselor and I cater to the whole of South India. So, proudly telling that GeneAura has set up the first genetic clinic in South India. We do not have such models here, and I operated from the Rio hospitals in Madurai, and I'm a consultant genetic and geneticist and a genetic counselor in the SIMS hospital. And I think my other accreditations have been well discussed by the professor who introduced me. Thank you, sir. And I've also received funds from the DST and other central governments also. So that was my starting point. So these funds helped me to do the research or the background, this basic research required to develop my product. So when there is an innovation edge to your product, the government obviously recognizes it and it supports you by giving you funds to do the basic research in case it has to be done. Because investors or the fundraisers do not support basic research, but they only support product development as well as marketing the product. So GeneAura's timeline, in 2019, we started as a sole proprietor company. In 2021, during the COVID pandemic, we decided that we would go private limited, and we got ourselves established in the Clinical Establishment Act and the PCPNDT Act. PCPNDT Act is for not disclosing effects of a fetus. So we do a lot of reproductive genomics, and obviously in genomics we would know what is the sex of the fetus, not the baby but the fetus, but it is not allowed in India. So we need to have a PCPNDT Act. And then I had the scientific advisory board with international members, was completely framed after that. And now I had the company, I had the registrations, I had the board, my team, a strong team. Now I required funds to develop or scale up my process. And that is when I joined with the GIEC. They were really good enough to take us as an incubator, and they've been helping us to generate or accelerate funds to scale up business. And we have set up like I said, they have set up the first genetic clinic of South Tamil Nadu in Madurai. This genetic clinic is itself, as it is itself, is a new concept. We do not have genetic clinics all over India, but recently last year we had there's another person called Purple Genetics or something somewhere in Delhi. So this is the genetic clinic as a whole. This is the first concept over here. That itself was innovative, and we have one or two genetic clinics which is just within the hospital pertaining to just one department. If there's a reproductive center, they have only reproductive genomics over there, and eye hospitals, they have only an ophthalmology genetics over there. So we did have a little bit of genetics here and there in our country, but we are the first person to set it up as a whole. And some other achievements, we do provide genetic counseling services to major hospitals like Arvind Hospital, SIMS, MGM, Kaveri, Adia Cancer Institute, Deepam hospitals, and some peripheral clinics also. So, and when we give these genetic counseling services, so we have had postgraduate and undergraduate students who approach us, and they work with us when they shadow us when we go to these places, and they observe what's happening. So we did have a lot of intern students who have come with us for this kind of training, industrial exposure. So when we go around giving genetic counseling, we do take in the intern students along with us for an industrial visit. So industrial doesn't mean just the industry where some manufacture is happening. Obviously, for me, the industry is the medical industry. And we've got MOUs with Savita universities and with various regional boards like Tamil Nadu, OB-GYN board Tamil Nadu, cancer federations. And we've got MOUs with them for genetic diagnosis and as well as genetic counseling. And we do a lot of downstream analysis, the bioinformatics work for a lot of genetic companies itself for a clinical reporting. And apart from that, we give a lot of research services to various colleges like Savita, SRM University, Digi Vaishnava. We just made MOUs with them. And also VMRF, Dr. Adil had connected me with a few scholars from the college for research services. Some of our notable clients through the journey of this year. And yes, so GeneAura, what we do exactly, we have four major categories. One is clinical diagnosis, data analysis, genetic counseling, research and internships. You can find more in detail about this in our website, but I will just brief you on what we do. So what we do is when a patient actually approaches GeneAura, they first undergo something called as pre-test counseling. These patients approach us for genetic or clinical purposes, for genetic diagnosis or genetic counseling. And in the pre-test counseling, we collect family histories and make a risk analysis using the pedigree and other tools available. We make a risk analysis of the disorder for the patient, and keeping multiple factors in mind: the mental stability of the patient, the financial stability of the patient, and what kind of disorder is suspected in the patient. We will have to choose the correct type of test. So that choosing the test has to happen there. And then the actual testing, which is a wet lab, the laboratory procedure, we do the testing also. And then clinical reporting. And then the post-test counseling, when we explain, genetic reports are not easily understandable by a layman. So we need to make the patient as well as the clinician understand what is reported, what is being reported. So for this, we do the data analysis, data interpretation, and give an actionable plan of disease management to the patient. So that's in the post-test counseling. And we do have different fields in the genetic counseling. One is cancer genetics, reproductive genetics, fetal and pediatric genetics, consumer genetics, and ophthalmology, neurology, ortho, cardiovascular. All this are also growing, but very slowly. But yes, we do have requirements from these sectors also. And like I said, we do have some direct to consumer tests also. So nutrigenomics is one where it's not a patient, it's a client. They can approach us directly to understand their body or to understand their DNA, how their DNA works in a day-to-day metabolism. What is the kind of metabolism which what their body has? What kind of diet would suit them? How they live? How can they live healthier? For a longer number of years, and what is toxic to them? What is not toxic to them? What are the micronutrients they have deficient in? What are the macronutrients they require? Their sleep pattern, their eating pattern, their diet pattern, their fitness patterns, how much they can endure, their endurance. Some people say, no, I've been going to the gym, but I do not lose weight at all. They might not be doing the correct kind of fitness routine that their body requires. So all this is addressed in the nutrigenomics testing. So this is a direct to consumer testing. Another one is ancestry mapping. In India, we know our grandparents, we know our great grandparents. So usually this is not required in India, but outside India it is required. Why? Because to be in the direct to consumer, they do it to know their ancestry, but on the medical aspect of it, sometimes some diseases are are very personalized to their ethnicity, that is to the area from which they belong. So like I said, Indians have a separate Indian genome. So some disease, we are prone to some diseases, and we are not prone to some diseases. To understand this, also we might require an ancestry mapping and the evolution of the genetic tests. Understanding that the crowd today over here, the students over here are all UG and masters and research scholars from the allied health sciences and the technological side. So this is where we have a great future. So the genetic tests previously started with karyotyping. Karyotyping was the sole standard test of for anything genomics, and that is like looking at the arrangement of a chromosomes in the body. When we don't have a pair, or we have more than a pair, it causes disorders. That was the first step. And after karyotyping, then invention of PCRs helped us identify single gene or single mutation disorders. And FISH is an advanced or a digitalized karyotyping. But in that we have a lacunae that only when the probes are available, only for the design test we will be able to do FISH. To identify something which is not designed or which is not known previously, we will not be able to do FISH. And that's when microarray was introduced. In microarray, it was again, probe-based or loci-based, not SNP based, but your whole genome can be read using microarray. But like I said, it's not SNP based. Big pieces of loci can only be seen. So to go even more deeper, to zoom into your chromosome settings and look at it at the base pair level, the next generation sequencing was introduced, and it is still ruling the market. Now major of the tests are being done through next generation sequencing. Now with this information, that whatever data is being generated in the next generation sequencing, each data is really huge. And we believe that in future, this data would help us to, create tools of diagnosis using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that's our forecasting, that the future is going to lie in AI and ML. So now I've told you that NGS is being used, completely. So the the genetic clinic, it is like I said, it is not again a single person's job. So we have a set of members here. So it is all mixed by clinician, geneticist, and technologist. So these are three major key players of a genetic clinic. So clinician are the persons who would identify that a patient requires some genetic help, and they would reroute them to a genetic counselor or a geneticist. The geneticist would do the pre-test and the post-test counseling, and they would work along with the technologist. So the technologists are actually what we are being trained to do here, and we have a lot of allied health sciences, the nurses, the physiotherapists, and they can also get themselves trained to be a genetic counselor. So technologists perform the actual laboratory procedures, and they give the information for a genetic counselor or a geneticist to prepare a report. Like I said, the laboratory procedures, there are two. We have, as far as NGS, the next generation sequencing is concerned, we have two sets: the wet lab as well as the dry lab. In wet lab, we do everything starting from extracting of the DNA until loading the DNA into a machine for sequencing. So it is a tedious process. It is a 2-day protocol usually. So that is done in a wet lab. And in dry lab, what we do is whatever is the output given by the machine, it is in codes. These codes have to be decoded and given to the geneticist so that the geneticist can interpret it and give a clinical meaning to the codes. So now, when the geneticist gives a clinical meaning to it, it is given to the genetic counselor. Now, it is job of the genetic counselor to first call up the clinician, discuss the patient's condition, and then also communicate the same to the patient. So, without these three people, the wet lab people, the dry lab people, the geneticist, and the genetic counselor, the whole process of gene diagnosis will not happen. And we can fit ourselves into everything, in every stage of this, except for the clinicians. The other sectors are all covered with the engineering graduates, the life science graduates, allied health graduates, and so you have a lot of job opportunities opening up here. And in general, just for your information, and next generation workflow has extraction and then something called as library preparation. These two come under the wet lab procedures and then the sequencing in the machine. And step 4 is the analysis of the output files. So that is the dry lab position. And for dry lab, we usually prefer to have bioinformaticians who know some kind of coding or computer language. And yes, bioinformatics is the most important thing because yeah, you can follow a protocol, do the wet lab, and put it into the machine. Just that you need to have precise hands. But whatever comes out of the machine is very tedious. The decoding is very difficult, and that's when a lot of bioinformatics is into play. And this bioinformatics has huge variety of applications. It is not just for the machine reading the machine output. Apart from that, they can be used in the microbial sector, they can be used in the plant sector, they can be used in the animal sector as well as the human sector. In the microbial sector, we would look at infections, or we could also identify new kind of microorganisms. It can be from the source of microorganisms can be anywhere from sewage to petri dishes. It can be from anywhere, but to understand a microbe, we can understand the genetics of the microbes. So for that, we do a lot of sequencing and the bioinformatic application. And then when it comes to plants, sometimes we can identify new species of plants, or save the endangered species of plants and medicinal plants. And for medicinal plants to understand their medicinal properties, it would always be helpful to know their medical or the mode of action as a medicine. So to understand the mode of action as a medicine, we need to understand the proteins, its expressions, and basically the genetic makeup. So when you're doing research on plants and plant-based products, again, you would be able to make use of sequencing and bioinformatic applications. And yes, agriculture is a lot of genetically engineered stable products are being introduced into agriculture by the use of by knowing the complete genome of plant. To understand the plant's properties, we need to do of course, yes, you need to understand its genome, its organization, and its activities. And thus, genome assembly of plants can also be done. And again, you have animals, the host pathogen interactions. You can save endangered species DNA. And yeah, we do a lot of experiments. We do a lot of trials on the animals first, on albinos, on rats, on monkeys, and rabbits. So we need to understand how genome and these rabbits also function as a system. To understand all this, again, we would do animal genomics to understand how the drug we have given has and interacted with their gene, how it is changing their body systems. All this we would do using bioinformatic applications. We usually try to compare a control set of animals with a treated set of animals. So even this comparison, we do the gene expression comparison to see what is being upregulated and downregulated before taking some drug or some process into the humans. The first step would be to screen them on animals. So we majorly use bioinformatics over there, and after that in humans, for research, population studies, variant identification to know the disease mechanisms, you name it, you would know everything. We do have a lot of clinical applications also, and pharmacogenomics is a very beautiful place where your gene is matched against a drug database. So, for an example, in case a cancer patient is presented to us and we have a tissue biopsy of the cancerous growth, then I can actually identify the genome of that cancerous growth, which is going to be different from that person's genome because it's different, mutated only, it has become a cancer. Now, this cancer growth's genome will be matched against drug database to identify which drug would suppress the growth of this cancer, or rather, to which drug would that patient respond to. So instead of going for a clinic trialing with drug one and then failure, and then doing a trial and error method of drug two, and advancing, let the cancer stage to advance from stage one to stage two and three, we could initially do a pharmacogenomics analysis and give the best suited drug to the patient. So this is not just for cancers, even for cardiovascular disorders. Sometimes we had drug allergies, and it would lead to a different mechanism. Even it would put you in an ICU if you take a wrong drug. So to screen all this, pharmacogenomics is being used clinically. And how is all this possible? Bioinformatics means big data. Every data which comes out of the machine is in GB. For a human, we have a whole exome or whole. If you're reading the whole genome of a human at a nominal coverage, the data output per sample is going to be 5 to 6 GB of data for a human. So just imagine kind of data which we are getting accumulated and processing it. So big data is very much an integrated part of the bioinformatics, and it has to be handled when we need to have facilities to handle the big data. And I think incubator centers are also connecting us to clusters and cloud services and servers to store our data. So storage of the data becomes an issue when we have big data. And how we handle so much of bioinformatics and so much of information in GeneAura is because I have team members from different backgrounds, and we also work with international collaborators for bioinformatics. And I also provide bioinformatics services to some of the Singaporean companies, to a few companies in the US and the Middle East also. So bioinformatics has a lot of scope outside India also, and you can still get to do the work from India. It's something like an IT company, but the scope for bioinformatics is on demand every day. We require skilled people for bioinformatics, and GeneAura takes pride in training students to get equipped for bioinformatics and bioinformatic associated jobs. And it's because majorly we also require skilled bioinformaticians. And as far as the research side is concerned, we have just the data analysis part. We do it for a lot of professors or PIs in the country as well as outside India. A lot of PIs are in touch with us for NGS data analysis, or designing of the experiment, how to get an experiment done, and writing of funds to the DVD, DSTs, and ICMR, how to write a fund, how to design a project. Writing a fund itself is a very big, it is something like an entrepreneur journey. You need to know a lot of information for that. So that is a very tedious job, and we do help the PIs to get it achieved, and also student projects also we do handle. And NGS data analysis is one of our a very close to heart product. We do a lot of data analysis. There's primary and secondary data analysis. Primary data analysis, any company would do it for you, it's not an issue. But secondary data analysis is very important, because primary data analysis will just give you, it would convert, like I said, it's just decoding. Decoding of whatever codes have been given as an output from the system would be decoded in the primary data analysis. But giving that decoded information a meaning is where secondary analysis comes in. And proteomics also, we do have research services. We do not offer clinical services in proteomics as of now, but research services, we have done a lot of projects for the government sectors, the ICMR sectors, majorly on molecular docking and drug designing. And apart from that, protein validation, structure characterization, all this we could also be able to do. And in other areas of research in the R&D sector of GeneAura is genomic statistics. Statistics is different, genomics is different, but genomic statistics itself is a different place. When you have to prove that your gene is, the variant you have identified is pathogenic, it has to be statistically significant. To give this strong or bold decision to the world and deposit into the NCBI, it has to undergo a lot of statistical tests. So only when the accuracy is the highest, we can accept a variant as a pathogen. And data visualization. Like I said, secondary analysis is not which somebody would commonly do it, but we have data, so much of data in our hand. how would we give it out to the world? How would we give it out to the other researchers in the same field? How would we give it to the clinicians who might require help from this? How would we explain it to the normal people? Even your peers might not understand what you're trying to tell from the data. Just data, graphs, and all this is not, just representing data in the form of tables is not going to actually be very catchy. So data visualization is a very important field. We have a lot of bioinformatic tools for that. And with the help of tools, we try to create beautiful images. I will just show you some examples of the images we created. Some Venn diagrams, some pathology drawings, some graphs. It requires a special set of skill for that. So data visualizations are also done by us. And we also write review papers, meta-analysis, systematic reviews, Cochrane reviews. Yes, I'm not just talking about the small narrative reviews which every student would do. No, the review which we do are really on the higher end, and we get published them at really high-end journals. So we have such kind of review writing services also. And this is one such review which we have published in the American Journal of Medical Genetics. It's the highest society journal as far as the genomics field is concerned. And they are the ones who have actually laid down all the rules to be followed in a clinical setting for a to how to report a genomic variant. Or the board, we have an American board, they certify the genetic counselors and the geneticist. So it is their society's journal, and publishing them in them is not very easy. So we have written an article. This is the last one which I've written and got accepted in March. So we do write review articles, such quality review articles, and beautiful images, data visuals also I've created for them. And this is one such service. And we would also do projects with them. So if you see, the team I'd worked with is from Rutgers University, USA. So we work with different teams, and we also have collaborations, like we would send in students to their university for higher education. We would also give them connects. I have two people who are going to do a PhD in Rutgers University, and they are one of our student and one of our staff. So we have connects over there. We will be able to mobilize students from after their undergrads to their postgrads also, to various other colleges in the US and the UK also, and Australia too. So I was talking about data visualization. So this is one such paper which is very rich in visuals. So just zooming in, this is my results part. So like I said, I cannot just put in tables like this for everything. You will not be able to understand what is happening. So when I give such data visualizations, like how many percentage is shared between each disorder, how many coding sequences we have, non-coding sequences we have, what are the consequences of the variants which are identified, when it is given in such a representative form, it is more easier for the person who's reading a paper to understand what you're telling. And when they refer your paper, the value of your paper gets increased. So such visualizations are also very important as far as big data is concerned. This is another area. So this is not a textbook image which I'm showing here. So this image was created from the scratch by me. To now we have the variants. We did a pathway analysis. So this is the pathway analysis which we did, and we were able to identify a pathology behind polycystic ovarian syndrome. So now I need to explain that pathology to the world, not just to me. So me and my research team would understand this, this image of the pathology, the pathway analysis. But when I put in visuals like this, it is like everybody can understand what is the pathology I'm trying to tell behind it. So data visualizations are very important when you want to publish in high impact journals. And yes. So this is again another example of data visualizations where you'll be able to use those data and visualizations. So I've been using such visualizations to take classes, where I take classes for the US students, again medical students. I take genomics classes for them. I've been using such visuals even for the classes. And we have so much of information within GeneAura. We have a robust team with us, so you can always make use of us, take help from us. And how do we propose to transfer the knowledge what we have gained to others is through projects and internships. We do provide some certificate courses. Courses for students, we do always give offers. Maybe for professionals we charge around 10,000 to 8,000 to 10,000, but for students we really give it to them at a very affordable price, like 3,000 to 2,000 to 3,000, 5,000. And obviously, when it comes to VMRF students, we always have a soft corner for them, since they have been really grateful to incubate us. So we would also be always accommodating. We would always give special concerns to the patients, students from the VMRF. And please make use of a research and development team also if you have any queries in the research. And we are also planning to launch a course on all the a PG diploma course for genetic counseling, most probably. And the current modules which are available in GeneAura are for molecular docking and in silico analysis of genes, next generation sequencing, and genetic counseling. So, I mean, each bullet point is one module. We have currently 4 batches running for in silico analysis and NGS, and genetic counseling 2 batches are running. So this we have it throughout the year, open throughout the year, so you can always take our email IDs and contact us or write to us. And we have some of the images of the students who trained with us. We have trained more than 500 students in live, and we have trained more than 1,000 students through online platform. And we've got good reviews and feedbacks also. They're all put up on the website. You can have a look at them. And thank you for today. I'm ready to take in any questions if you have.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
Participants, if you have any queries, it's time now. You can ask ma'am. You can either put it in chat box, or if you want, you can ask it by unmuting yourself. I think the mail ID and the website is presented on the screen. If you
Yes.
have further queries, you can mail also.
Yes,
Is it
they
okay,
can
ma'am?
always mail us or call us, and we would be happy to help them, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really beneficial. All the practical insights, right from market research, and you narrowed it down to how to research the audience, as well as about the incubation centers, and lots of theories. Even though students could go read all this in theories in library, you simply exhibited in a very practical, explicit manner. It was really helpful, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Okay, we'll close the session now. Thank you, all participants.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.